So, now you know how I know when people say they're so good and they're so kind and they're so loving, that they're actually hiding. That right now the opposite is true. And they're, putting up a facade and find every way to keep that facade going until the facade cracks. And then the evil witch, whatever, comes out. And, oh, God, it's crazy. That's how I can see through so much bullshit. What do you mean that's how? Because, oh yeah, I was introduced to how humans work at a very young age. And that's why I could see through a lot of bullshit. Because there are two sides to people. They have the evil side and they have the good side. Whatever will develop an image that is socially acceptable to the population. And so that's how, I was lucky enough to experience what it's like to understand both sides of not only your immune system, but people's personalities. And anyone that claims they're kind and loving and helpful and benevolent and good and all that, there's an opposite. There is an opposite that actually is coming to surface. And they have to convince themselves in the world how good and wonderful and beautiful and whatever they are. And so those that don't claim they're good and they're benevolent and kind and loving, those who don't claim that, then they're, somehow teetering on positioning both or working with both. Maybe some people are aware of that, their power over people and whatever, so they stay away from people because they don't want to wield a kind of a destructive power. And that's why I stay home and stay safe. That's why I don't have anyone next to me in the J world, because I know what kind of power I fucking have. And I've seen what I've acted like when I've had absolute power. It does corrupt absolutely. So that's why the system doesn't want to have anyone who has absolute power, because they know it corrupts absolutely. And parents and children and queen bees and king bees and those who are leaders in their groups and in their situations with girlfriends and guy friends, when they get that taste of power, of having a power over somebody's social life, over somebody's whatever, people get really evil when they had a taste of power. Because I had to experience that as a kid, what it's like to be that powerful. And that's some pretty heavy information to know as a child what it's like to be powerful. And then learn how to control that power. And you've watched movies of people who've been given power at a young age and what they do with it. That's why the Vampire Diaries say you shouldn't develop vampire children. You only turn somebody, right, when they're an adult, not when they're a child. Because when you turn a child into something that powerful, they become destructive. Like literally destructive, unless somebody knows how to control their behaviors, control their powers. But that's the thing. When you're having children, you came from destruction, you came from trauma, you came from whatever, and then you're told to have a kid, and you can't even control your own powers. So you watch these parents out there try to act like everything is great and wonderful, but they're so on the verge of trying to keep shit together. And the medical system has to come in and really regulate them and protect the people around them from them by treating them. And so I understand now the place for the medical holistic system is not for the patient, it's for the people around the patient. Just like the police officers, they're not there to protect you. They're there to regulate those who are out of control. And maybe a byproduct is they de-escalate a situation or they help you out of a situation that already occurred. And it's like, okay, so now we understand. Now we understand. Well, we don't understand. Not everybody understands what's going on. And so I was lucky enough to experience what it's like to have power at a young age, and then learn how to control that power throughout my whole life, and then understand my peers who don't know how to enter, a lot of them do not know how to control their powers. And so they were raised as good girls. And that's why I get so like annoyed at these empaths and these women that claim they're so good and they're like my age. But you know, when either you were raised like a good girl, a virgin, right? And then maybe somewhere along the line you got corrupted. Eventually that evilness of wanting to take over and convert and whatever and use your power then either stays in place or you recognize how destructive that power is. But some people don't understand how destructive their power is because they keep getting cured, they keep getting operations, they keep getting remedies. So that evilness then stays put, and then you have the facade. Beauty, intellectual ability, charm, all that. And so someone like me who understands how power is used at the gut level, I feel it, right? And then when I'm around people who are putting up a facade, hiding behind their alcohol, drugs, and charm and sexuality and whatever else, their position, and I feel the resistance, and then I'm like, gotta get the fuck out of here, because I know what people are dealing with. I know what kind of demons they're fighting, and even though I can't put my finger on it, and I can't be like, oh, well, I know what demons you're fighting. No. You just get out, because and so I know it developed me, and I know the perceptions out there in California from the people that used to know my sister and I and all of that, and they've watched us grow up. Some people in my old junior high, I don't say high school because I left high school a long time ago, but as kids, and they have all these perceptions about me, and I've had to carry these assumptions about me from people who knew my sister and I and knew our family and knew me in school. And when you can't even, like when I can't even put my finger on what the fuck is going on and why it is I feel so horrible about myself, and my sister hates me and fuck. And then people that know us mutually, and then there's a situation happen that people break up apart, families are not hanging out together anymore. Why is that? Well, something happened, an event happened that someone had to make a choice to get their kids out of a situation. What do you mean? Well, and you're raising your kids to embrace an intact family, to embrace two-parent household, to embrace not being exposed to violence, to aggressive sexuality. Okay? Not to embrace gore and death and divorce. Well, you're going to have to pick and choose who your friends are going to be. And sometimes friendships have to go to the wayside because they're a representation of something that the parents are not ready for their kids to be exposed to. So that's why the situation had to break apart with mutual families of the past. And then stories that get told, and of course all the different programming that happens over years then gets used as a scapegoat or whatever. And even the way I was put in a position to have power over somebody else and have it be controlled through the family even put me at a disadvantage, because anytime, whether it's your mother or your sister or your brother, wielding power over you and inducing fear, it's like your government, Democrat or Republican, people get fucking resentful. They don't know how to understand it, that kind of power. And then that power, that abuse of power, I guess, gets then passed down, gets transferred somewhere. People understand the power they have over their friends and their family and their daughters and their sons and their girlfriends and boyfriends. And they misuse their power, and it becomes destructive. And so, yeah, I mean, and so I couldn't figure out why the fuck, and so I felt so horrible about myself. Oh my God. And then also with my own deficiencies coming into America, having to fight that battle of trying to keep up with my peers too. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm telling you, I get no break. There's no freaking break for me. So I become the family pariah, the town pariah, right? And so back in the 90s, when those families broke apart and then the daughters found us, we connected for a second, and then, I needed to find a different, mother figure so I can juxtaposition what I grew up with. And that person really helped me figure out some stuff and helped me through some pretty tough times. She couldn't say anything. What the fuck is she gonna say? She was probably told to shut up about whatever. And I don't know what happened, but now at 50 years old, I could probably put everything together and figure out what actually happened. What do you mean happen? Again, when people go through a situation where someone breaks code in their marriage and you don't want to expose your kids to that, then you take them out of that situation, and then the families don't engage anymore, because now, yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Friends are disposable. Friends are there for a certain reason. They either maintain the image, maintain the programming. If they break the programming, whatever it is, then you can't be around that, right? But that's what happens in scientific situations, and also out there in the public. When people, when friends come and go, all of a sudden something happens in that situation. That person doesn't represent an image that needs to be maintained. And so people cut off friendships, and there's so many reasons why. And so that's why it's so important for women to understand they have to stand on their own. They literally have to stand on their own, because the women around them are in competition, the microbes are in competition, the cultures are in competition, and women have shit in their background. Because in order for you to even become a woman my age, you had to have gone through some fucking trauma. I don't care what it is. Whether it's a first boyfriend, second boyfriend, a rape, an incest, an abuse, a breakup, whatever. Women have gone through some fucking trauma. And so, with these girls, they're going to be going through some trauma when they grow up and finally figure out their power and that they probably can't control. And these boys out there sniff. They can smell a victim. They can smell an uncorrupted virginal girl. Human traffickers can smell that. And so me knowing what I went through, knowing how to use my power at a young age, and then finally at 19, be corrupted by the males that were sniffing these kind of girls out there and corrupting them. And you hope they survive those situations. Oh, wait, I'm going to marry my daughter at freaking 25. She'll be in a narrow channel like the conservative regime, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But you know what she's in for. She's going to marry the first guy that looks good on paper, that's going to be like all lovey-dovey, come from a good family and all that stuff. And you don't know what's in his background. And so you hope she survives that marriage. You hope she survives her boyfriend. You hope he survives his girlfriend and wife and whatever else. And we all know, we've seen, very rare do people stay together for like 50, 80, 90 years. Just, that's why there was a 50% divorce rate way back even in the 80s. And why there's so much divorce rate now. Because people are under the impression, the image of the Cinderella shit, and they come to realize that they have their own trauma and broken genetics in their own background. The man isn't what he purported himself to be at one point. He changed, or who knows what. Or she discovers things about him later on. And you hope she's right, but then you know what's going to happen with these girls, especially in this new conservative regime. They're going to be forced to get pregnant. And so then, oh my God. So now she has a bunch of kids. She probably is, can't even afford to have a bunch of kids, and she doesn't survive. And so what you see in the last couple years was me understanding the plight of these poor girls. I know what they're going to fucking go through. I know they'll be raised virginal and a good girl until that demon comes up because she gets corrupted by somebody in the schoolyard, somebody out there in high school, or she's dating someone, date rape and all that shit. Or she goes to a bar and dances on the tables, and there's some serial killer that knows, how to take advantage of someone like that. And they don't survive their community. And so the last couple of years, this last year, I have been like in my gut knowing what these girls are going to go through. These young girls, these children, these boys. Some of them are not even surviving the athletic field. Some of them are not even surviving just having a freaking family. And you feel bad because I was trained at a young age to understand how to listen to indicators. You know, I didn't fully understand it when I was younger, but the last 8 years of peeling back the layers of whatever, I finally get to the root of it all. And so, yeah, that's how I know the conspiracy world is so fucking true, because I had my own 9/11. A contrived situation that developed a situation that would forever change a relationship that was set in one track, would then diverge and go on another track. Which I understand, because the system had to do these experiments to understand how deadly a family can be when everyone is so homogenized and so connected to each other. There's no room for change or evolution. So then you have to have kind of the same background, but with then at some point they diverge. And now you have two people raised by the same person, maybe with a little bit different programming and with a little bit different outcomes. And so I was not lucky enough, maybe my mother already knew that my background in Vietnam and me surviving potential autism and starvation and whatever else would give me the upper hand. My sister, who was, she, for all intents and purposes, she had a normal babyhood. Even though she was given up for adoption, she had a relatively normal babyhood. She had a foster mom, and she was a fat, chubby baby, and that's a healthy baby, right? A fat, chubby baby. I was skinny. I was starving. Potential autism, was given up by another family in New York that I was supposed to go to. And I came, to my mother's house and my father, and they saved me, protein loaded me, and gave me everything that they could to get me to be alive. And then here we go. So you're pitting a relatively normal fat baby who's relatively healthy to then someone like me. And then when you develop a psychological situation that never really occurred, but it had to occur based upon whatever, and see who will strategize and negotiate survival tactics. That's beginning of survival tactics. How do you get somebody to do something when they never did it? And we both, so let me go back to what that situation was. It was a jewelry box. I remember to this day, sitting in my room, looking at my sister across the hallway, because I had my room over here, her room's over there, and we're looking at each other. We're talking amongst each other like, you say you did it. No, you say you did it. No, this is what I'll do. If you say you did, I'll do something for you. Like, it was a whole negotiation. Quid pro quo. I learned how to negotiate at a young age, to negotiate our survival of getting out of the bedroom, getting out of our room so we can go play and do whatever, right? And so my sister took the fall. Maybe she got, I don't even remember the punishment. I don't remember. Maybe she does, but I don't know if she'll remember now. Maybe she does. That's probably why she hates me. But anyway, so then I used that situation. Like, oh, now I have a power. I have the power of fear. I'll just do something, which we both never did touch. So my mother accused us of touching her jewelry box, and we never did, because we're too afraid. My mother had the fear of everything, so we never did touch her jewelry box. I know to this day my sister didn't. I know I didn't, but she made us go and one of us admit that we did it. Even though we both didn't do it, she made us figure out how we're going to negotiate our way out of that situation. And so I'm the one that came out on top as the strategist, and I negotiated my sister to take the fall. And then she took the fall, and then I figured out that I had the power of fear. That I'll do something and blame it on her, and then she'll take the fall. She didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. That was the situation I was put into. And so from that point forward, basically colored the rest of our fucking lives. From that was our 9/11. If we didn't have that 9/11 in our situation, we'd probably be sisters today. But who knows if you'd have the J world. I'd probably be dead by a long time ago. Because I had deficiencies. I had issues. So, I can't even get mad at the situation, because I know what they were trying to do back then, now. And I know what they're trying to do today as far as the 9/11 and the changing of our direction and all the different experiments that even all of you are under, whether it's the remedies, the surgeries, your politics, your religion, all your science, all of us are under some kind of experimentation. Others of us had it a bit more personalized, and other people are just part of a pool of petri dish of people who are clones of each other, reenacting the same thing that they see on TV, reenacting what they see in their church groups, you know, with their friends and family, basically reinforcing the same bullshit. But all of us were under heavy experimentation, some more than others. But I will not be made out to be a scapegoat. So when the last couple of days, when I'm seeing people from California stalking my page, and some of us, yes, I blocked 2 people from California because to be left out of a eulogy, and I think that person knew exactly what they did, and only mentioned my sister. And I didn't do shit to them. That's what really fucking got me. I didn't do shit to them. But, yes, I may have had questions about aggressive sexuality and the hot chick complex, because that's prevalent in a lot of families in Silicon Valley, as well as everywhere else, is that these women use their hot chick complex to wield power over their counterparts and then come off like they're better than you. Come off like they know better because they can cast spells, right? Use their sexuality to tractor beam whoever and threaten people with their sexuality, and they'll just be coy and flirt with your boyfriend or whatever. And when you know women are like that out there, that use their sexuality to try to tractor beam something or get over on somebody, well, I know that's a spell. I know that's things that go. And so I'm just like, you know, so I kind of knew that was some of the people's platform, programming, whatever. And I may have had questions around that. And so, yeah. So being left out of a eulogy, I was just like a little fucking pissed because I didn't do anything to these people. Do nothing to them. Nothing. And I couldn't figure out, but I figured out now. Okay, I was coming too close to the truth. And that's why I was shunned in California. Because I was getting a little bit too close to the fucking truth. Lest I go and divulge anything that could be potentially mischaracterized. I'm not trying to mischaracterize anything. I'm not trying to destroy anyone. Okay? We all were brought into this world under so many different circumstances that some just can't help and whatever. And everyone has been part of some experimentation and used as a tool, used as a paradigm, used as a way to juxtaposition and see where you could have gone down if you were raised by this person. And here you're raised by this person, so you saw what you are now enduring and realizing realize what saved your ass. But how do you explain that to someone who is like 19 or 20, right in the middle of trying to figure out stuff? How do you explain to someone who's in their 30s, who is dealing with PMDD and other issues and other choices made, not knowing where the fuck the root of those choices come from? And so finally, hopefully, when a person survives all of their bullshit and they can get some kind of mental clarity and release the demons and whatever, then maybe, potentially, they can look back on everything and make all the fucking connections. And no one had to tell them anything. Because there were enough clues dropped throughout so many years that if a person's had to go this direction, they know they can blame someone and say, oh, I'm not here to blame anyone. I'm not here to go and divulge any trade secrets or divulge any family secrets, because that's not my place. My place is to understand what my position was and how that's going to help myself and humanity, and also give people in the world that I came from an avenue, a way the fuck out. But don't make me the fucking scapegoat. Okay? Because I've tried to better my life the last 30 fucking years battling these stupid ass demons. I had to deal with assumptions made about me. I had to deal with accusations made at me. Whatever they are. I don't know what the fuck they are, but I know people in California, when someone's going through their own bullshit and I'm made out to be a demon for whatever reason, who knows what's being said? Who knows what kind of perception? So that's why I went off yesterday when I saw certain people come through on the back end, stalking my page. And I know they're reading everything. All right, let me fucking set the record straight. And I'm not mischaracterizing anything. And so the system developed certain programming that will not break laws or cross any major boundaries that already haven't been crossed when you're a kid. When someone changes your diaper, they got to go do whatever they got to do. Now they're saying, well, should we ask the baby if we can change a diaper? Well, that's the thing. Okay? So whatever programming I was under, my sister was under, whatever, is no different than what kids have to go through when they're raised by parents. Somebody has to wash them. Somebody has to change their diaper. Somebody has to feed them. Somebody has to make sure they're wiping their ass properly and wiping their whatever properly. So yeah, things got to get personal on so many levels. But there's other psychological operations that go on, and there's also programming out there, such as the media. I wasn't exposed to Fast Times at Ridgemont High, like those in my high school class, which is why you get people who are Gen X with a few kids, because they were sexualized in high school by their peers. I left high school at 8th grade. I left junior high. And so I was around, criminals and whatever, and institutions, exposed to, the gang mentality out there. But no one really took advantage of me. The girls kicked my ass when I spoke out of turn, but that was pretty much it. I learned that, women can be fucking brutal. In the gangs, as well as psychologically out there in the population, and with sexuality. And so when I finally bloomed, and became a hot chick, I got married at 19 because I had my first. That's who woke up the fucking demon, was my first person. And divorced him pretty quick, too, because that wasn't going to last. And I wasn't going to have a baby with that person. I wasn't going to be tied to him forever. And I was advised by a few good women that I knew at the time. You don't really want... You can't... First of all, I was so skinny and so deficient that if I had a baby, I would have died anyway. So that was already a concern for the people in my world at the time. So they're like, here, get the Norplant so you can have sex and I have a kid. And then, we need to take care of that, whatever, and go to Planned Parenthood. And okay, so I did that. And then luckily, nothing ever came of that later on as far as, pregnancy and all that. So maybe I was infertile and who knows, but I still had to deal with the demon of PMDD. Okay, so I got lucky that I didn't have a kid in spite of that. So that was the thing. So I knew not to have sex out of wedlock. How does a liberal parent infuse that into a daughter because of the way she fucking raised me? And then we learned about sex through clinical means. There was a book. Where did I come from? So this is a penis, this is a vagina, and this is how you have a baby, and if you don't want, and they're married. And that's exactly how I learned about sex the first time. It was clinical, the mystery was gone, and that was it. So I had no reason to go and explore things. I had no reason to go find a boyfriend. But I still had to deal with my sexuality, which finally came to surface at 19. Not even when I was in the institutions, surrounded by girls that were sexualized around me, that did some crazy shit. So you're like, oh my God. But I already had that thing of, I'm a virgin. I'm not going to do anything. So the guys knew around me not to fuck with me. Maybe some of them tried, but I'm like, nope. But the way she fucking raised me was so right on. The way she fucking raised me. So right. So I never turned to addictions or cults. Really. I was trying to improve myself. I was trying to catch up to my peers. And then having to deal with that monkey in my back of how my sister and I, when I left home at a young age, my sister left home too at some point, but when I left home at a young age, we didn't have any relationship until we were in our 20s. Okay? And even then, that relationship was totally unstable. And even in our 30s, when I came back from Hawaii and I came to Sacramento, We tried to live together. It wasn't going to fucking work. It wasn't going to fucking work. So, and I've kept in contact with some people, like the mother, the matriarch of that situation, and then she passed away. And to be left out of that eulogy, because that matriarch really impacted my life. She really helped me through some of the things that I just didn't understand when I was in my 20s, in the 90s. But to be left out of that eulogy just really fucking threw me for a loop. And then I figured out, what are these people perceiving me as? Why are they making me out to be the scapegoat? What the fuck? So yeah, the last 3 years was uncovering a lot of shit. Because I'm not going to be someone's fucking scapegoat. But when people do make you the scapegoat because they have a lot of shit in their background they have to hide, that they're afraid to come to surface. I'm not about to release anybody else's demons. That's their own fucking problem. That's why I left California. But I'm not even on Facebook wanting to release any demons in other people's worlds. No, that's their own fucking shit they have to deal with in face and talk to their kids and talk to whatever and figure out for themselves how to save themselves. But I'm not about to go and be like that kind of person and destroy people. I'm not that kind of person. But I got to release my own fucking demons without being so like in your face about so many things. So it's, you know, the 80s, the 70s and 80s were a very different time. I mean, you saw what they were like with Brooke Shields and what she went through with her mother. You saw what a lot of these people back in the 80s and the 70s, and Drew Barrymore, going to Studio 54 at what, 8 years old, 9 years old, smoking cigarettes, doing drugs at such a young age. Yeah, those were a different time because the system was seeing how, because the system is watching and seeing how, what would happen if you do this, this, and this, and this. And no different than when you're like in India. I've seen people in India like on Facebook Reels, and you see these kids. They're kids, but they've been like matured so quickly, and they don't even have like, you know, a disease like progeria or something. No, they have just been sexualized and matured so quickly at such a young age that these are like little adults. You've seen the experience and the maturity at like 10 years old. But this happens in different countries, right? So America had to be the last greatest experiment. How do you control maturity? How do you control sexuality? How do you control all these things? And so we had, all of us are fucking petri dishes, but some were given programs that you do this and have this happen, you do this, like the whole if then, but my mother did it correctly. So even watching like 50 Shades of Grey, I fast forward through all the sexual scenes and just get to the storyline. Because I don't need to have that glorified, I don't need to have that gratuitous sexuality, violence, gore. Because yes, if you're a parent and you're allowing your kids to play video games and to watch some of these really explicit videos on Netflix and YouTube and all that, yeah, you're going to turn your kids into a fucking monster and then put domestic violence and your peers and everything on top of that. You're going to develop monsters in our society. And so my mother knew exactly what the system was developing. And I don't know if she chose to develop whatever she developed, or it was an experiment, or it was something that was collective, some black budget secret thing that happened in Silicon Valley. Who the fuck knows? But whatever the case may be, I got lucky to be under a really good experiment. And some kids aren't that lucky. Some kids, like my sister has a chance to turn shit around, but it's fucking difficult. I don't know if she will or not. Who knows? What do you mean turn shit around? Well, whatever. I'm not going there. But anyways, but some kids out there are programmed in specific ways that they won't have the capacity to turn shit around if things are going to the wayside. Because the programming is so cemented that it's done. And you feel bad for them, but that's the thing. When you have children out there and you have no idea what the fuck you're doing, you have no idea what it is you're putting them through. You went through shit, but now you're under the influence. Now you're under influence of alcohol, drugs, sex, and whatever else. So you don't remember what it's like to be a young girl discovering everything. And some man, some boy, some whatever takes advantage of you. And you go through hell. And then you cover all that up with drugs, alcohol, and sex and distractions. And then you have a kid on top of that. That trauma is being passed down to that child. And you can't tell people this because they think everything is right in their world. They're justified. And that's why the system is guiding reproduction carefully, because they know on top of trauma and malnutrition and war and whatever else, we're developing monsters in our side. Now look at your Facebook. Now look at your Facebook. And that's why America has the highest amount of missing people and kidnapped people, and why our jails are full of criminals. And why you're looking at Hollywood, right? Because they are a representation of us. And some of these Hollywood actors and actresses are showing you what's in the population. And then you're seeing on the articles like Daily Mail and Newsweek, and this girl is on TikTok and this boyfriend is doing domestic violence to her, and she tells him to shut up, and he basically is trying to put her to sleep through a headlock. These girls are enduring some fucking aggressive men out there who are not regulated, who abuse their power with each other and with women out there. These poor girls don't know what the fuck they're entering into. And you're having these girls and parents out there having children who are all virginal and innocent, and they're going to get corrupted by some predator male out there who's looking to go and corrupt something. You hope she survives, but even if she does survive, she's going to be so traumatized and so broken. And then have a family on top of that. Now you're seeing that's why the system has to go and do shit, because we're developing predators from that. So, yeah, there's a lot of experiments out there. A lot of them. But I was lucky enough to be part of one that actually finally became amazing. And so that's where the whole Jilly Juice world came from. Was me channeling all of that shit that I don't even know what was in the background through trying to figure out how to prove my theories, my claims. And again, I was introduced to the fear and the fight or flight hormone at a young age. And that is a power. But it could also be abused by people who don't know how to understand how to regulate that and how to manage that. And I'll tell you, when you have those video games of like Grand Theft Auto and whatever else that are so explicit, and your kids are playing these video games or watching these movies, the slasher movies of the 1980s, the Freddy Krueger, the Michael Myers, which I never saw. I finally saw all the 80s videos in my 30s and 40s. But when kids are watching these aggressive, violent videos, you can only imagine what kind of predators and abusers you're developing in this society. And then you see them post everything on Facebook. You know what they were introduced to: porn, violence, sexuality, same thing, gore. So that's why I stay out of society. Because I know how some women, many women, put on a false front. And then underneath, there's a lot of shit brewing in that the facade cracks, or you trigger them the wrong way, and they will find ways to destroy you from within. And so that's why you keep things at an acquaintance level. You don't get involved with other women out there. You don't have a best friend of other women, because you guys are basically in competition, destroying each other systematically. And so you have acquaintances and you have women on your Facebook that maybe understand where you're coming from. You can drop a few lines of encouragement here and there. But no, I don't play this whole, I gotta have a best friend. I gotta have a bunch of friends and play queen bee and have someone kiss my fucking feet and kiss my ass to make me feel relevant. I don't hang out with a bunch of women. I don't hang with a bunch of men either. I have my husband and I have my Facebook, so I am social without being social, without socializing. And I give people an opportunity to figure out what they have to deal with to survive, or not, or use me as an entertainment piece, a punchline. That's why I posted that thing about Colonel Jessup. You want the truth, you can't handle the truth. Because people like the science experiments are like the soldiers in the military. You want them to exist. The Divergence, right? That was the whole Divergent, Allegiant, and whatever, those series on Netflix. But yeah, people like me are fucking punchlines. But you want someone like me somewhere. And so, yeah, you know, my mother couldn't protect me from the world. I had to figure out how to survive the world I was living in, with women and men raising predators in our fucking society. And she knew it, because she knew what the system was doing, even back in the 1960s. So when someone on Facebook says, oh, I'd rather be overprotective than sorry, oh, that's a little holier than thou, isn't it? As they are dealing with cancer disease and chronic illness and in and out of the hospitals left and right, getting treated for everything. That's what overprotection gets you. You're getting treated to death because you won't have the tools and the hormones and anything else to fucking save yourself, and your poor kids are so overprotected that they finally get wind of their power and they misuse it, and inevitably they will hurt somebody in the process. But hey, whatever, being an overprotected mother, that's what gets you off fine. So yeah, so we're gonna watch the next 4 years once Trump and the Heritage Foundation gets in office, which is great. I think it's great. I think we need to see what exactly we're raising out there. I think we need to see, and we're seeing it already. We're seeing these mothers and these kids, or these mothers and fathers, realize they don't have what it takes in a stressful environment to raise a fucking child. And you're going to see them destroy their own children. You're seeing that, people leaving them in hot cars, or the kids getting treated to death, so they have everything basically carved out of them. They've been through countless surgeries, hooked up to machines countless times. Oh, but wait, they have great, they go to parties and they do good in school. So this will be an interesting time. What did I write to somebody? No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to leave that alone. But I think the Heritage Foundation is a good thing, because we need to be forced to look at what we have developed. We need some kind of accountability. And if we have to see the horrors of what we have developed within these families, the kind of kids they produce through overprotection, through countless surgeries, through encouraging our children, boys and girls, to have kids when they have already so much trauma and other shit in the background, we need to see what happens. But from the safety of your own computer, from the safety of virtual reality, from the safety of being out of the public, staying away from the public, from the safety of not cultivating too much diverse family and friends. And then you understand why I've been staying home the last 3 fucking years. Why I have a gut feeling about a lot of things, and why I've left situations, not knowing why I left them, because I knew innately there was danger. And I remember a long time ago when I was working for a company as a temp, and it was for Long's Corporate. They're not there anymore. Long's Drugs back in Walnut Creek. And I was a temp. And so the two of us were temps. And there were girls in that office that were fucking mean, fucking catty, queen bee bullshit. And they played the whole, oh, queen bee clique situation. So then me and the other temp hung out during our lunch breaks. And then maybe after work, went to a bar or something to talk about the girls in our office who were fucking mean and fucking evil. And then she was having issues with something and wanted me to come to her house and help her out of a situation. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not cultivating this. She wanted to be friends and she wanted someone to unload on, but I knew I didn't have the capacity to be there like that. There was no fucking way I was going to cultivate that kind of suffering. And so I left that, because she's only going to have to figure it out for herself. I couldn't be there to save her. But some women get in that position where somebody is like needing to be saved, and they attach themselves to a suffering woman who've developed her own situation, and she has shit in her background, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever. And so these women think of themselves as saviors, attach themselves to these declining women, and they go down with the ship. And so many times I have been in situations where these women and men have issues that I can't save them from, but I know, oh shit, this is a sinking ship. I can't be attached. So I'd walk away. Oh, but you're not a good friend. Yeah, that was a fallacy. Friendship is a fallacy. And so that's what saved me, is knowing that I was in danger. That suffering people are fucking dangerous. And so you look on your Facebook, those who are in and out of the hospitals, Those are getting treated for disease. Those who have issues with addictions. Dangerous, dangerous. If you're not part of that whole situation and doing what they're doing, you're fucking dangerous and threatening their image. So I stay away from everybody. And so people look at my information, they're like defending the way they raise their children. Oh, I'd rather be overprotected than sorry. Oh, you'll be sorry later. It's a delayed reaction. You might get social capital being overprotective now, but wait till that kid isn't around you and they make whatever choices they make, or they're in situations they can't get out of because you never gave them the tools to know what it's like to extricate and survive a fucked up situation. And so that's why these people out there with the whole Austin, my husband watched that video with me. I made him watch it because it was the men in Austin that are getting targeted. These men, these boys that were overprotected by their family, were so kind and so loving. And when you watch that video of that one guy that was talking about his brother who came up missing and ended up as a body floating in the Lady Bird Lake, and his brother would do no harm, never cussed a day in his life, was always Johnny on the spot. Everyone was so enamored with him. He became a victim of somebody's nefarious ways because he was overprotected by his family, probably by his mother. And that's what these mothers and fathers are developing, are not only predators, yes, but also victims that will eventually turn into predators because they'll be damaged by somebody and survive it and then turn predatory. And that's the whole binary argument of predator and prey. The prey eventually becomes a predator because they realize the world is not safe, and then they want to go and preempt things. And you can't fucking do that. But when you've watched the pendulum go from one extreme to the other, holy shit. Well, she used to be so good. Well, she got corrupted by somebody. Now she's just fucking went off the deep end. That's what goes on. So I don't give a fuck if you're a mother and be like, oh, I'd rather be overprotective. You're turning that kid into a monster one day because he will be victimized by somebody and then probably will not be able to get over it. But whatever. We're going to watch it all go down. And I'm glad the media, I'm glad Daily Mail, Newsweek, all of that post these articles about families and children suffering at the hands of their own family members. So you see what you're developing in our society. You don't have the capacity to raise a fucking child, but you think you do because you have the power to break off pieces of yourself and develop them and then force the world to deal with them. Well, we're going to see some shit the next however many years. But again, I stay home, I stay safe, I release my demons, I eat food, and I don't treat my disease, and everybody can do what I'm doing, but now you understand why the system does what it does. So I have no problem with what the system is doing. But it took me 8 years to figure that out. So, yeah, good luck to you all, but, the train's left the station. The mirror is going to be ugly the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I hope you survive it, but if you do survive it, I hope you don't turn into a fucking predator. All right, bye.